Howard Gould is an eco-entrepreneur, and Stephen Moore is editorial writer with the Wall Street Journal.
All right, Stephen, I want to ask you about this. Does the Gulf oil spill and the fact that President Obama can't put offshore drilling on the table at this point to appease some people, are there really a lot of Republicans who are going to come out and say, no, we really want to keep going with more offshore drilling? Isn't that just politically unpalatable right now?
Well, it may be. There's no question when I talk to Republicans about this issue on the Hill right now, they're kind of in the fetal position. But I think it's the wrong position. Look, we need the oil. I think we can do it safely, especially in the shallower water. So I think we have to think about the implications on our oil prices and our gasoline prices if we're not drilling.
Let me just take this further. There are implications on a lot of people. There are a lot of people in Louisiana, for instance, so upset about this bill who are saying to the president, wait, don't stop the offshore drilling because it's our livelihood. Right. And Howard, we're not using a drop less oil as a result of this whole thing. So if we're not drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, this isn't a defense for it. I'm just saying, if we're not drilling in the Gulf of Mexico, someone's drilling and we're buying oil.
Well, I mean, purely the fact is that we use 20% of the world's oil.
And we're less than 5% of the population.
Yeah, and we only produce 2% of it. So, you know, this isn't necessarily making a huge impact. I mean, I agree that, look, oil's not going to go anywhere for the next 20 years. I mean, that's a given. But the fact is that we should be clearly, you know, this is clear evidence that we should be looking at doing other resources, because there's two scenarios here. One is that oil is finite and the price is going to ramp very quickly. Or two, the oil is infinite, and the fact is that that you're going to have India and China, and demand is going to outstrip supply. So the price of oil is going up either way. So why wouldn't we use this as a catalyst to start looking at clean energy?
Stephen Moore, let me ask you. Go ahead.
Let me just answer that. The answer is because even though oil is expensive, it's much cheaper than all of these other alternatives. I mean, it's significantly cheaper than wind power and solar.
Well, Stephen, yeah, but that's coming from an attitude of right now. I mean, the fact is that you look at solar, the price of solar has significantly come down. Last year, silicon was $450 a kilogram. Today, it's $47. So you can't tell me that the price isn't coming in. And that's actually with very limited investment in this area right now. I mean, only literally out of $365 billion that's spent every year on the oil business, we only get $1 billion spent on renewable energy.
But you know, but let's not forget, you know, you can't power your car and you can't power, you know, a lot of our electricity with solar. We're going to need oil. We're going to need it to make sure that our cars run and so on. And remember, I think the key point here is there are a lot of people in the Gulf whose jobs depend on offshore drilling. I mean, you made that point, Allie. I think it's really important that we're talking about tens of thousands of jobs that would be destroyed if we're not doing the drilling.
Stephen, let me ask you about, I want to ask you real quick about BP. I mean, do you think BP, I mean, Exxon, for example, after its big debacle, 20 years ago, I mean, Exxon went through a couple of mergers, came out with, you know, great profits, a big, more powerful company. Does BP survive, or is this a completely different, ball game here?
Christine, that's a tough question. I mean, they are in so much trouble right now. I think one of the reasons they're paying out dividends is they want to pay out those dividends before the government can get hold of their money. I think they should be clearly liable for the direct expenses and the environmental damage that's been done. I think it's crazy, as the administration says, that they should actually have to pay for the cost of the moratorium on drilling. BP is opposed to that. You know, I don't see why they should be responsible for the jobs that have been killed by the president's decision not to do drilling. But this company, I think, is in big trouble, and you've seen its stock shares just plummet in the last couple of weeks.
And you think the deal for climate change legislation is in trouble, too, as a result?
I think it is in a lot of trouble, and I think it simply comes back to the one issue we talk about every week on this show, which is jobs. The carbon tax is a big killer of jobs in the U.S.
Howard doesn't even like the name carbon tax.
Howard can't even sit still.
Well, not only is it not a carbon tax, but the fact is it is not a job killer. It is a job creator. The fact most people actually think of.
How can you?
Most people think. Well, if you let me speak for a second, I'll tell you how. Most people actually think that, you know, when you look at clean tech and the climate bill, that it's solely focused around wind and solar. The fact is that there are companies out there that, you know, take a Trinity Industries, for example. This is a 100-year-old metal bending company. They now all of a sudden 5 years ago decided to stop producing or continue on producing their rail cars, but also producing wind turbine towers. Now they're hiring people. These are jobs. These are green jobs because they are making wind turbine towers.
I am all in favor of your green technologies. Just don't ask taxpayers to pay for it. And there is no way you can make energy more expensive in the United States.
Why shouldn't they pay for that?
You can't make energy more expensive and production more expensive in the U.S., which the climate bill does, and expect that to create jobs. It does create jobs. It just creates them in China. And
we need
India.
we need one of these World Cup whistles. But I'll tell you what. Excellent discussion. We will continue to have it with you two guys. But I think we're going to call this carbon tax every week just because it gets Howard so fired up.
I know.
I love it. All right, guys. What a pleasure to talk to both of you. Again, this is a perfect example of the fact that smart people can disagree on this thing, but our viewers need to know what those disagreements are so you can make up your mind.
And look, another example of the BP disaster and the Gulf oil spill and how every time you peel back a layer of the onion, there are big long-term ramifications that could actually change the way you live your life. So we'll continue to explore those every week. Thanks, guys. Stephen Moore and Howard Gould.